Good day once again, my dear students. It's nice to be back, and I hope that you've done or you did the assignment I gave you or the activity I gave you last time. Just keep it with you, and as I ask you later about your assignment, I want you to comment your assignment in the comment section, okay? The IMRD format: inquiries, investigation, and immersion. I know that when you were when you had your practical research 1 and 2, your teachers taught you about the IMRD format, especially here at Vicente Malapitan Senior High School. So we have I, that stands for introduction. And before we move on, I want first to orient everyone that for weeks 1 and 2, we'll be having the following most essential learning competencies. We have, or you should be able to, when we say most essential learning competencies, these are the skills that you should master. You should be able to prepare a plan and a focus on issues and ideas and formulate clearly the statement of research problem. As we go on, we will understand the meaning of these most essential learning competencies. Specifically, you should be able to identify a research topic, formulate a research title, and write the chapter 1, the entire chapter 1, which is the introduction, okay, and its parts. Again, identify a research topic. So here we will be studying on how to identify research topics or how to identify potential research topics. And as we identify these potential research topics, you will now be formulating your research title. So be ready for title defense. And of course, you will now be able to write the chapter 1, which includes the background of the study. Well, I just want to remind everyone that the background of the study will not be, written as background of the study. It's automatic that when you are in your introduction part, that will already have the background of the study. I don't want you to write background of the study and then you will write your paragraph. No, you don't need to do that. In my case, as your teacher, when you write your introduction, that is automatic that you have your background of the study. Review of related literature and studies, theoretical framework, conceptual framework, research paradigm, research gap, statement of the problem, research hypothesis, significance of the study, scope and the limitations of the study, and lastly, the definition of terms. Now, I told you, or I asked you a while ago, if you are ready with your assignment or activity I gave last time. Let me ask you, what have you found out about inquiry, investigation, and immersion? But before anything else, let me first give you the following images to help you define inquiry. So I have here this image. Tell me about yourself. How do you handle stress and pressure? What is your greatest weakness? What motivates you? Describe your work style. What are your passions? So, looking at this image, how will you define inquiry? Or how will you describe the word inquiry or inquiry? What about investigation? By looking at this image, what can you, or how will you define or describe investigation? Look, even the smallest thing or even the tiniest thing is included here in this investigation, because as you can see, the investigator is trying to get a sample or blood sample by the use of a cotton buds. So how will you define investigation then? What about immersion? How will you describe immersion or define immersion? By looking at this picture. As you can see, there are several people. Okay. So by looking at this picture, how will you describe immersion? Now let me give you a brief detail about this one. I'm actually here. As you can see, we went to Norzigaray to interview the Dumagat tribe in Norzigaray, Bulacan. And in order to do that, we need to be with them to do the interview, and also to ask something about how they live in a day, what's their life in a day, how do they survive. I mean, what is their lives in a day? So how would you define immersion? Now that you've seen those images, I hope that you have put your definitions or descriptions of inquiry, investigation, and immersion in the comment box or in the comment section. Now let's find out, for everyone's sake, or to come up at a common definition of inquiry, investigation, and immersion, allow me to give you the following definitions. Inquiry is defined as the systematic search of information, knowledge, and truth about certain things. It is the process of solving problems through researching and probing. It involves questioning and interrogation. Investigation is the systematic examination to uncover facts regarding the matter. Investigation is done carefully and by thoroughly inspecting details in an organized manner and assessing facts which are uncovered in the process. And immersion means that the researchers immerse themselves in the culture they are studying. The payoff of immersion is usually immense, as the researcher can gain more information than through other methods. I remember the definition of history when your teacher will ask you this question: what or how do you define history? History was derived from the Greek word historia, which means knowledge gained through inquiry and investigation. That's the definition of history, based on Greek word historia. Okay. So meaning to say, when we say inquiry, you ask questions in order to come up, or in order to arrive at an answer, or to find out the truth. You do questions, or you ask questions. And investigation, look, the word systematic has been repeatedly used here in inquiry and investigation. So meaning to say, when you do inquiry and investigation, this is a systematic process. All right? And investigation is done carefully and by thoroughly inspecting details, even the tiniest details, in organized manner, meaning systematic, procedural, and assessing facts which are uncovered in the process. That's the reason why you are investigating, because you want to find out the truth or the facts behind. Okay? And immersion is you are, okay, immersing yourself, or you go with the people you are trying to study. Like for instance, if I would like to study, or if I study the culture of or how Korean live, then I should go there in Korea to study them, because I cannot study them, or I cannot study their lifestyles, culture, norms, if I won't immerse myself with them. Alright? So, if you want to do immersion, well, you have your immersion. Oh, well, yeah, that's a good example actually. The reason why this is called immersion, because you have to go there. Okay? Like, for instance, you belong to ABM strand, accountancy, business, and management. Now you have to immerse, or you have to go to the field wherein you'll be able to experience being an accountant, probably, or the essence or the atmosphere of having a business like that. Okay? And then after doing so, you will now be able, or you will now see problems or difficulties. And then you will make research to find solutions. Okay? I am just trying to link our subject to what you will do, which is immersion, because our subject is inquiry, investigation, and immersion. Okay? So again, immersion, you will go to the field of your chosen strand. Okay? This is the reality. Okay? Like for instance, accountancy, business management. So let's say you will be having your training in a particular bank, okay, being an ABM student. And then you will observe that there are challenges, problems, or difficulties encountered. Now, as a student having immersion, how would you solve that particular problem? So you have to do research. All right? I told you that when you do immersion, you will now do your research. And when we do research here in this subject, inquiry, investigation, and immersion, we are actually talking about the two major types of research, the quantitative and qualitative research. And if you will combine both of them, that's going to be mixed method. All right? So what do we mean by quantitative research method? It entails the collection of numerical data and displaying a deductive view of the relationship between theory and research. A preference for natural science approaches and an objectivist conception of social reality. That is according to Bryman and Bell 2005. Let me expound it. So when we talk about quantitative research method, expect that you will see numbers, figures. That's why it's a collection of numerical data. Okay. And when you do quantitative research, you are actually trying to find relationships between and among research variables. You want to prove also whether there really is a relationship that exists between a theory and a research, or a theory and what is being practiced. And this kind of research method is the most preferable method in natural sciences. For instance, for STEM students, they will have to make SIP, Science Investigatory Project. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, they will also be asked to make capstone. Okay. But the best example here that I could give is the Science Investigatory Project. All right. So that is quantitative research method. Qualitative research method, on the other hand, entails broad questions and the collection of textual data from phenomena or participants. The researcher searches for themes and describes the information in terms of themes and patterns that are unique to that group of participants. Let me clarify this definition. When we say qualitative, this is the opposite of quantitative. That's why when we say quantitative, it means numerical data. And when we say qualitative, it refers to textual data. All right? And then, when we do qualitative research, the information that you will gather is only generalizable to the group of participants you have. Compared to quantitative research, the generalization or the findings of the study could be generalized or could be applicable even outside the group of respondents or subjects or participants. All right. I don't have to explain further about the differences of quantitative and qualitative research methods because you have studied this way back when you had your practical research 1 and 2. For week 1 of inquiry, investigation, and immersion, we will be doing brainstorming for research topics. So that's for week 1. But my video for today will have weeks 1 and 2. So just sit back and relax. Listen, and if I ask you to do something, that's going to be the time that you have to participate. So week 1, brainstorming for research topics. So the question here would be, how do we, or what are the possible research topics, and how do we find them? All right? So sources of a good research topic. It could be theories to be validated, extended, or modified. Meaning to say, you want to prove whether this theory is valid or accepted or not, or if this theory is really happening. Like for instance, what the adult will tell you and what they actually do. Okay? They will tell you that, for example, smoking is dangerous to your health. That's probably their theory. But what do they do? Okay, so theories to be validated, extended, or modified. Other studies, particularly through research recommendations. This is the reason why when you do your research, if you could still remember when you do or when you did your practical research 1 and 2, you actually had in your recommendation for future researchers, because that is another way to find a good research topic. You can actually start your research from the recommendation part. National or international trends or situations to be described or improved. Probably you have heard what is happening outside the country, and you want to do research on that. Real life problems, personal issues, experiences, or situations of senior high students. Your experience. What's happening with you? What is your personal issue, or what are your personal issues? Do you want to describe your experiences? That could be a possible research topic. Or if you are curious and interested in something, right? Therefore, we could say that almost anything that bothers you can be a potential research topic. Let's say, for instance, early in the morning, you go out of your house and you see or you have experienced something that is not desirable, and you feel like it needs to be addressed, then that is a good source of a research or of a good research topic. All right? Let's uncover the potential research problems by answering this. What bothers you? What bothers you? To manage and enumerate? Because at home, school, community, and in the world, there are so many things that bother you. So, there are too many to enumerate. Let's try to narrow it down. Online classes, students' performance, teachers' performance in the new normal, social isolation, social networking, student relationship, computer gaming, health issues, waste management, work from home, mental health, battling COVID-19, work habits and ethics, labor issues, sexual harassment, time management, financial management, personal affairs that affect job performance, and many more. So these are just, some of the potential topics that you could or you wish to have, or you probably or you might include in your bucket list of research topics. Let's say, what if others have already chosen your preferred topic? Remember the issue? Your teachers or your former teachers told you that a research topic or title should be novel. And you were bothered to think of a novel research topic or title because you think that almost all topic or titles have been studied already. Okay, well then let's try to look at the topic in another angle by answering the following questions. What is not being looked at? Therefore, what do you want to look at? Who is not being studied? Therefore, who do you want to study? What is not being done? Therefore, what do you want to do? Who is not being compared? Therefore, are there people or groups you would like to compare? So by answering these questions, I am very much certain that you will be able to have a novel research topic or problem or title. Actually, when you answer these questions, you will now actually have the so-called research gap. What is a research gap? We will explain that later. Remember that when you do research, you shall not duplicate but replicate a research undertaking. What does it mean? It means to say that when you do research, you shouldn't be doing the same research title at the same time, at the same place, with the same research participants. Because when you do so, that is duplication. And what do we mean by replication? You probably want to study the same research title at a different time, different place, with different people. And that's going to be replication. And just a final reminder, when you do research, you have to make sure that it should be within your interest. Why? Because if that is not within your interest, I tell you, you would find it hard to complete or finish your research because it's not within your interest. It's not close to your heart. And it should be within your ability to manage it. Time management, financial management. If you are asked to finish your research in 2 months, what's going to be the research topic or research title you should provide or you should have for your professor or teacher? Okay? Within the availability of your resources. Resources that you will use in doing your research should be within your reach. Let's say, for example, looking for participants or respondents. We are lucky now that we are in level 2 because I believe you could somehow already interview people regarding your research. But what if at the middle of your research undertaking, the government announces again lockdown? How would you pursue your research? How would you finish it? So you have to also consider that. Deciding on the topic, again, the first question, what do you want to look at? For example, computer gaming addiction. That's the topic. Who or whom do you want to study? A computer gaming addict. And this will be your respondents. What do you want to do? Look closely at how the senior high school learners got addicted to computer games. What would be the best methodology? Descriptive, correlational, comparative. Descriptive correlational, or comparative alone. It's up to you. But again, in choosing the best methodology, you should consider your knowledge, skills, capability, and ability. Okay? Let's say you wanna do comparative study. Are you knowledgeable enough to do this? Do you have enough knowledge and even skills to pursue this kind of study? That's another question you have to consider. Now, by answering these questions, I will be able to come up with this research title. Computer gaming addiction among senior high students of St. Andrews Academy for the academic year 2020-2021. Okay. Or it could be computer gaming addiction and the academic performance of senior high students or senior high school students of St. Andrews Academy, blah, blah, blah. Why did I highlighted the name of the school and the year? Because it could actually be not included in your research title. Meaning, it could be removed from the research title because that could actually be bound from, or that could actually be bound to some other parts of your research. All right. So computer gaming addiction among senior high students, it sounds broad, but it isn't actually. Okay. And this is what we call univariate research title or research variable. So univariate meaning you only have one research variable in your research title. The second one, computer gaming addiction and the academic performance, it's somehow narrower compared to computer gaming addiction among senior high students. And here we have already two variables, and that's going to be bivariate research variables because we have two research variables, but both are correct. Okay, but if ever that someday and somehow your future research teachers or professors will tell you that computer gaming addiction among senior high students as a title is not acceptable or is not accepted, then we have to respect that. Okay, why? Because it actually depends on your professor, teacher, or even institution. Okay, some other institutions, they would ask you to include even the method that you will use in your research title. All right, so it depends on the institution and your professor and even the panelists. Title should summarize the main idea of the paper. Okay. Meaning to say, your title should be the focus of your paper. That's why when you make your research, everything in your research should talk about your research title. It has to be a concise statement of the main topic, meaning it has to be straightforward, not too wordy. Include the major variables of the research study. Be self-explanatory. You have to avoid vagueness in making your research title. Why? Because there are some cases that your research title may have another meaning to other people who will be reading your research title. So you should avoid that instance, okay? Next, describe or imply the participants of the study. You need not actually put the specific participants or respondents of your study in your research title. Let's say your participants or respondents are grade 5 pupils. You need not put that there in your research title. It could actually be like elementary pupils or students. Okay. And then, it must have 10 to 15 words. And the function words are not counted. Only the content words are counted. And what are function words? Articles, auxiliaries, demonstratives, quantifiers, prepositions, pronouns, conjunctions. Okay. Putting aside those words, let's say you do not know them. So probably you know, and I know that you know these words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. These are only the words that we count whenever we construct our research titles, all right? I have here sample qualitative research titles. Number 1, lived experiences of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students on a school campus. That is from a research proposal by yours truly, way back year 2018. Teachers' acceptance of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students, Theodora 2020. Actually, this research title is mixed method, or this research title used mixed method. Adjustments and experiences of seasoned teachers in conducting online classes. Mejares et al. 2021. Making their own way, the experiences of gay male students in STEM fields. Smith 2013. Lived stories of mid-career teachers, their struggles with millennial learners in the Philippines. Aguirre and Fowler 2018. Lived experiences of students whose families are Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino Program beneficiaries or Cortes. Gregorius 2017. Students' learning experiences and perceptions of online course content and interactions. Nuanquo 2015. Women's Friendship Dissolution, a Qualitative Study, Halma 2008. Bagong Silang Community, an ethnographic study of strategies of survival. Becoming Selfless, a grounded theory of commitment to service. Nunology, a grounded theory of Filipino beliefs of modes. So looking at the sample qualitative research titles, you could probably formulate your own research title, by substitution, for example. What do I mean substitution? Let's say lived experiences of. Who are your target participants? Where? Okay, of blank, in or on a school campus, or on a or in a. Okay, so this kind of research title is or used phenomenological research design, right? This one, Nunology, a grounded theory of Filipino beliefs of modes, that uses grounded theory, qualitative research design. All right. Next, quantitative research titles. Again, interpersonal and administrative skills of school principals and their effects on teachers' performance. By yours truly, again, year 2020. Development and validation of electronic strategic intervention materials in grade 4 science. Mapala 2020. Redefining teachers' professionalism for millennials. Basis for crafting a matrix for the symposium. By yours truly again. Influence of social media on the academic performance of selected grade 10 students in selected public schools in Caloocan City North. By yours truly again, 2018. Evaluation of the reading program towards improved strategic instructional materials. By yours truly again, year 2017. Effects of blogging in promoting tourist destinations amidst COVID-19 pandemic. King et al. 2021. These students were from Our Lady of Fatima University. I helped them in making the research title. I was their research advisor. Because in Our Lady of Fatima University, particularly or specifically in hotel management, something like that department, they actually required their students to look for research advisor, which are not actually teaching in the same school. Okay. Another example, contact tracing system for private establishments utilizing ARPID with temperature measurement. De La Cruz et al. 2021. This research, or the students who conducted this study, were from University of the East, and I was their grammarian. I edited or proofread their research, and this is the title of the research. This is actually a very interesting research, and this will be introduced by one of the students who conducted this research during the work immersion webinar. So wait for the discussion on this research. The perceived value of test the certificate of competency as employment credentials in hospitality industry. Mercado et al. 2018. The students who conducted this research were from informatics, something like that. And again, I was their grammarian. Effect of promotional strategies on purchase intention of consumers in the garment industry during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the research title of my professor who graduated from Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Doctor in Business Management. All right. Oh, 5 minutes. Or should I say, I want you to comment or probably think of 3 qualitative and 3 quantitative research titles which you will talk among your group mates. Okay, meaning as a group or as I group you will be presenting individually in your group the research titles you have formulated. And as a group, you need to come up with 3 qualitative and 3 quantitative research titles as a group. Okay, I hope that that's very clear. Again, for example, there are 10 members. So each one of you should have 3 qualitative and 3 quantitative research titles. And each one of you will present your research titles in your group. And as a group, you have to decide which among the research titles presented will be the best to present to me. All right? Let's now proceed to introduction or writing introduction. Again, when we talk about introduction, it answers the question why you did this work, what is its purpose. That is introduction. So when we write our introduction, it should orient the readers why the study be conducted. It should start from a global perspective to a more personal one. Like international, for example, you will cite an article or study conducted in the US, for example, and then to the locality, Caloocan, for example. Impacts the readers to emote their interests. Later on, we will talk about that, how to impact or how to emote the emotion or the interest of your readers. It should be simple and clear and related to the problem or topic. Yes, when you write your introduction, it should be simple and clear and must be connected to your research topic or research title. Because when we write introduction, you are actually introducing your research topic or research problem. Therefore, it must be related to your research title or research topic. And I have here suggested approaches. You may start with a brief but provocative quotation, facts or statistics, a brief background in abroad, in the country and in the locality, and rationale concerning the need for replication of a completed study. We will further discuss that as we go on. So I will introduce four approaches on how to write your introduction. All right, so we have rationale. When we say rationale, it means the reasons why you want to conduct this study. Okay, it could be your personal experience, an article you have read, a news you have watched, basic literature foundation. Your introduction should not be an extension or should not be the extension of your review of related literature and studies. That's why it has to be only the basic literature. Meaning to say, the purpose is only to define or clarify terminologies in your research title. And then seriousness of the problem. How pressing or how serious is the problem that you really have to conduct this research? Is it really necessary for you to conduct this research? That's the question. What is your overall objective and purpose? Later on, I'll give you one example for this approach. Another approach. What is its significance? What's happening? What is the cause? What's the effect? What must be done? What is its significance? Why is there a need for you to conduct this study? Is it really significant? What's happening? It could be also termed as trends. What is the cause of what is happening? And what is the effect? Prior to these, what should you do as a researcher? Again, I will give you an example for this approach. Another famous approach in writing an introduction is the TIOC approach or TIOC approach. T stands for trends, I stands for issues, O stands for objective, and C stands for contribution. What do we mean by trends? Trends could be what is happening. Like for instance, social media. What is the trend now in social media or on social media? Technology. What is the latest trend in technology? Issues. What are the issues now on social media? Fake news, disinformation and misinformation on social media or social networking sites. Issues. Objective. What should you do to address these issues? What should you do to fill in the gap you identified in the process of your research? And what's going to be the contribution of your research in the existing body of knowledge? Would it give another insights about your particular topic? If that is social media, would it give another, or would it lend another insights or knowledge? Would it improve the already existing body of knowledge. Another approach would be introduce and briefly define the variables being investigated. Mention the most significant study or related literature. Maintain consistency in the terminology used. If you use social media in your research title, I advise that you have to be consistent in using the term social media. Do not switch into social networking sites. That might be, or that's going to be confusing on the part of the readers or on the part of the panelists or whoever will read your research. Ensure that paragraphs summarize unresolved issues, contradictory findings, social concerns, or educational, national, or international concerns. This will serve to highlight the knowledge gap that can be filled by conducting the study. So, in this approach of writing research, you will now have here your knowledge gap, or you will now be introducing here your knowledge gap. Later, we will further discuss on knowledge gap. Write the final paragraph to express the study's intent or ultimate goal. That's your objective and purpose. Example. Rational. With the challenges brought about, the title is Study Habits and Performance in the Qualifying and Comprehensive Examination among Accountancy Students. Okay? So rational. Again, reason. With the challenges brought about by the ASEAN integration, different strata of the government are expected to do more and function more efficiently to compete with Southeast Asian nations and other countries of the world. So, what was the reason why the researchers who conducted this study, this is the reason why the researcher or researchers who conducted this study, okay? So it's because of the ASEAN integration. Let's try to connect. All right. So study habits and performance in the qualifying and comprehensive examination among accountancy students. What is the connection of this rational to this study habits and performance in the qualifying and comprehensive examination among accountancy students? All right. Whether we like it or not, the government or the Philippines actually, I do not know how they do it, but they actually got representatives from the Philippines who would take international tests or examinations, like the PISA. I forgot the meaning of PISA, but that has something to do with the literacy level of the people in a particular country. All right, and this might be the reason why the researchers of this research study wrote this as the rational. All right. Next, basic literature foundation. Study habits have a great impact on a student's performance in the comprehensive examinations. The development of good study habits is the highway to reach the goals of an individual, whatever they are. A simple, small change in study habits makes a big difference in goal setting and in organizing one's life. Tiago 2015. So, as you can see here, this is an example of a literature review or a literature or an article defining the definition or the word study habits. And is this connected or related to the research problem or research topic? Yes, Because in the research title, we have there the word study habits. Okay. Next, seriousness of the problem. How serious is the problem? Many students are familiar with the cramming method. It can ultimately stifle long-term knowledge, retention, and cause undue stress. For many accounting students in Poblacion School of Business and Law, cramming is not really helpful. Most or all accounting subjects need storing of knowledge, which can be used especially when taking the CPA licensure examination. Oh, okay. So, going back to the rationale, this is ASEAN integration. All right. When we say ASEAN integration, actually, the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, is part of the ASEAN integration. So, we are expected actually to compete with them. And another thing is, we are expected, of course, to go overseas. All right? So, I am just trying to connect from the very beginning, rational, basic literature, and seriousness of the problem. So, as you can see here, it was mentioned about the CPA licensure examination. And we all know that if you are an accountant student or if you are enrolled in this kind of program, sooner or later, you will actually take CPA licensure examination. And that is a national test or examination. So that is the seriousness of the problem. Another approach here in writing your seriousness of the problem is by introducing or citing or showing statistics. That's gonna be a more effective way of writing your seriousness of the problem. Let's say, for example, out of 102 universities and colleges in the Philippines, for example, Poblacion School ranked 101st. So that means there really is a need to conduct this study if that's going to be the seriousness of the problem. Okay. General objective and purpose. It is in the slide that this research is conducted to determine the influence of study habits on the level of performance in the qualifying and comprehensive examinations among students. Okay, I'm so sorry. So, something is missing the preposition to. Okay, so in the qualifying comprehensive examinations among accounting students. All right. So our objective here is to determine the influence of study habits on the level of performance in the qualifying comprehensive examinations among accounting students. Purpose. Why? To perform better in their qualifying and comprehensive examinations. The reason why you want to conduct this study. This part is also called purpose statement. Okay, so purpose statement. How do you do it? As you can see, if you will look at this one, there is actually a pattern. It is in the slide that this research is conducted, or you may say, prior to the above mentioned scenario. That's another way to say this phrase. It is in the slide that this research is conducted. And then why, or your objective. To plus your verb. Is it determine, identify, measure? I just want to remind you that you have to be smart in writing here your verb. What do we mean by smart? Specific, measurable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, to determine, to measure. to identify the blank, your research title. Okay? And then after that, what will be now your purpose? Actually, if you will have your output, or if you will make an output, that will be another purpose. I mean, that could serve as your purpose. Okay. For example, if I will have an output, for example, to determine the influence of study habits on the level of performance in the qualifying comprehensive examinations among counting students, period. The findings may be utilized in crafting a guide, or in crafting a, let's say, program or enhancement program to, or for the students perform better in their qualifying comprehensive examinations. So that's how you write your general objective and purpose, or purpose statement. So again, let's try to see or find out if this is related to the research problem or topic. Is it? Yes. Why? Because we mentioned here the title, the influence of study habits on the level of performance in the qualifying and comprehensive examinations among accounting students. That's actually the central phenomenon, or the research title. So it's actually related to the research problem or research topic. Another example with the title, Teachers' Acceptance of Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Students. Significance of the study, or what is its significance or importance? The school should be a nurturing environment intended for learning for all students, regardless of social status, race, or gender. The students eventually will develop into citizens who significantly take part in the nation building. So that is the significance of the study. Is it connected to the research problem? Yes. In what aspect? When we talk of teacher and students, where could we find them? Of course, in the school or at the school. Therefore, the significance of the study is related to the research problem. So that's how we write significance of the study. What's happening? Some challenges occur and affect LGBTQ students because of their gender identity and sexuality. As shown in a survey conducted last December 9, 2019 by the researcher to 1,010 students from the school where he teaches, there are problems experienced by 247 non-binary students, or those who have cross-gender desires. The said problems are depression 73%, confusion regarding gender 71%, insecurity 69%, rejection by friends 53%, bullied by others 52%, and discrimination 43%. Although there are enabled laws and issued depth policies protecting LGBT students, problems still persist because more often they are not carried out nor strictly enforced. Torrison, 2017. Is this connected or related to the research problem? Yes. Why? Because actually, this survey or pre-survey was done by the researcher himself. Alright? And then we are referring to the students, and the respondents are the students. Therefore, this is related. And that's how we write what's happening. And as you can see, the the approach or the style or technique that the researcher used here is by presenting statistics. And of course, if I were the reader and I would read this, or I would see this stat, I would feel that there really is a need for me to conduct this study. What's the cause and effect? Teachers play a crucial role in building a harmonious school environment. However, some teachers treat LGBTQ students with neglect or inaction. Coseo, Greytak, Zongron, Clark, and Truong, 2018, exposed that teachers did not often intervene when anti-LGBTQ remarks were made in their presence. Teachers did nothing or told the reporting LGBTQ student to ignore the victimization of harassment or assault. Further, they emphasized that the teachers who did not address the reports of students' victimization demoralized the victimized students and could discourage other students from reporting when they are assaulted or harassed at school. Disregarding gender issues and concerns also discouraged LGBTQ students to realize their full potential. So that's the cause and effect. And is this related again? Yes, because the entire paragraph talks about the research title or problem or topic. Therefore, what must be done? As teachers are very essential in addressing gender inequality issues in the classroom, the researcher firmly believed that this is worth investigating further. Moreover, he propositioned that the teacher's acceptance of LGBTQ students is a vital step in improving gender sensitivity and equality that eventually will reduce the problems of these students in school. That's a nice stand of the researcher. Premised on the above-mentioned circumstances, the researcher opted to write teachers' acceptance of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students. So that's the title or central phenomenon. If you want to expand it by putting there the purpose, you may do so. For example, you will make a GAD program, Gender and Development Program. The findings of this research may be utilized to craft an enhanced gender and development program, okay, to reduce the problems encountered of the LGBTQ students and teachers inside the school. Sample number 3. Statistics. The title of the research is SHS Students' Social Media Usage and Their Attention Span in Class. Statistics show that social media has grown significantly in terms of the number of people who use it from 2010 to the present. Indeed, Facebook alone has reached a record high of approximately oh my god, I don't know how to read this one. How many zeros do we have here? Is this trillion? I don't know how to read these numbers. Is this trillion? Billion. I think it's billion. Yes. Active users as of January 2017. Up from 400 million in 2012. I think something is wrong here. But taking into consideration the number itself, okay, let's proceed. This remarkable increase in social media activity has piqued the interest of numerous researchers interested in the impact of social media usage. Social media are electronic communication devices that allow users to create online communities in which they can share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. Stevens, 2013. Taking into consideration the numbers or the statistics presented here, we could say that this is enough to emote the interest of the readers. Okay, I just think that there is something wrong with this write-up. Probably the way the sentence was written, but let's just focus on the numbers itself or themselves. We could say that there really is a need to conduct this research. This will emote the emotions of the readers. This will impact the emotion or interest of the readers. Several studies have been conducted to investigate the impact of social media on student academic performance. So, its relationship with stress, okay, and attention span. So, meaning to say, Matthews 2014, Johnson and Johnson 2016, they were the ones who studied or who investigated the impact of social media on student academic performance, okay? And then with stress, that's Santos and Chan. And on attention span, these are Santos, Chan, Microsoft Corporation, and Jackson. All right. People now lose concentration after 8 seconds, according to a study funded by Microsoft in 2013, highlighting the effects of an increasingly digitalized lifestyle on the brain. According to Webster 2011, attention span is the amount of concentrated time a person can devote to a task before becoming distracted. Okay. So, as you can see here, we already have here the basic literature foundation. Okay. Giving us or pacifying us more statistics or more what do you call this, evidences. According to Microsoft, the average attention span has decreased from 12 seconds to 8 seconds since the year 2000. That is less than the average goldfish attention span of 9 seconds. Oh my God, that's a good comparison. Foster 2013 explains in her narrative study on 3 college students and their cellular phone addiction that the participants' inability to concentrate in class and commit extensively to tasks required of them has resulted from their excessive use of cellular phones. While several other studies have been conducted to explain the effect of social media on high school students. However, none of the existing literature establishes a relationship between social media use and senior high school students' attention span in the Philippines. Okay. So I think and I believe that the researcher was able to mention here already the research gap, which is the part from Foster 2014 up to the last. Why? Because he explained here that there are already studies conducted, but none of the existing literature establishes a relationship between social media use and senior high school students' attention span in the Philippines. That is an implied research gap. So that's how we write a research gap. Well, anyways, we will still discuss that further later on. We are now in the purpose statement. The goal of this correlational study is to see if there is a link between social media use and classroom attention span among senior high school students at De La Salle Araneta University in Malabon City, Philippines. Okay. So this is the purpose statement. And this could actually be a way to compose your purpose statement again. So the goal of this blank what's the design of your study, and is to blank the objective of your study, and then blank the central phenomena or phenomenon, which is the title of your study, the participants, and the place. All right? But in my case, it's okay if you will not mention the study research design, the studies research design, and the name of the school for ethical considerations. Okay? Alright, we now go to review of related literature, thematic approach. What do we mean by thematic approach? I will explain that later. But before that, I just want to remind my students that when you write your introduction, you should choose one approach only in writing your introduction. Because during your defense, I will be asking you of the approach you used in writing your introduction so that you will be properly guided. Like if I ask you, what approach did you use to write your introduction? You will say TIOC approach, sir, or Dr. Manalastis. And then I will now check the introduction based on TIOC approach. And I will ask you, where is the trend? Where are the issues, objective, and contribution? So as simple as that. Okay, please bear that in mind. Because that's what I've noticed with my former students when they defended their papers and I asked them about how they write or wrote their introduction. They do not, they couldn't actually defend it well. Now, I made this presentation specifically to help my students or to help you properly and correctly write your introduction and properly guided. When I asked you about the approach you used, you would just tell me which among the 4 approaches I presented to you used in your introduction or in writing your introduction. I hope that that's very clear. Let's move on again. Review of related literature and studies. I'm so sorry. Review of related literature and studies. There is no separate section for literature and studies. That is as one. And there is also no separate section for local studies and foreign studies. Okay? That is as one. So, you only have the review of related literature and studies. And then, come up with a short introductory paragraph. This section discusses the blah, 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 blah. Alright? How do we, or what are we expected of in the review of related literature and studies? First, check the research major and sub-variables in doing your review of related literature and studies. Present according to how the research questions are posed. Meaning, let's say you have 3 questions, for example. Okay? Now, your review of related literature and studies will be written as to how your research questions are arranged in the statement of the problem. Okay? And when you write your review of related literature and studies, you must paraphrase to avoid plagiarism, summarize or even quote, and synthesize the relevant literature and studies. We synthesize when we write our review of related literature and studies so that it wouldn't be, or it wouldn't look like a page wherein you just copied and pasted your review of related literature and studies. It must be synthesized. Okay. And then connect the synthesized literature and studies to the present study. You should be able to build or establish the relevance of the previous literature and studies to the present study. And bear in mind this process according to Creswell 2008. First, we identify key terms. Second, locate literature. Third, critically evaluate and select the literature. Fourth, organize the literature. And fifth, write a literature review. Let's further explain that. For identifying key terms, with the title, Effects of Blogging in Promoting Tourist Destinations Amidst COVID-19 Pandemic. My statement of the problem: what is the profile of the respondents in terms of age, gender, program, and number of hours spent in watching destination blogs in a day? What are the different destination blogs the respondents watched? What factors do the respondents consider in looking for a destination blog to be viewed as a reliable source of information? What are the effects of blogging on promoting tourist destinations amidst COVID-19 pandemic as perceived by the respondents? And is there a significant difference in the effects of blogging on promoting tourist destinations on the respondents when they are grouped according to profile? Now, how do we identify key terms? For question number 1, you may or you might remove or you might not consider question number 1 in identifying key terms, but if you wish to do so, that is even possible. All right, so probably you want to look for review of literature and studies profile of the respondents, or let's say relationship of age to watching blogs, something like that. Okay, for number 2, the key terms here would be destination blogs. Okay, for number 3, factors considered in looking for a destination blog. Okay, number 4, effects of blogging on promoting tourist destinations. So those are the key terms. What about the number 5? Would you like to also include that? Yes, that could be possible. All right, but if you will focus on 2, 3, and 4, that could be. So number 2, we have number 2 question. We will have destination blogs for number 1 key terms. Number 3, factors considered in looking for a destination blog for our number 2 key terms. And number 4, effects of blogging on promoting tourist destinations for our number 3 key terms. All right, so that's how we look for key terms. And let me introduce some more ways to look for key terms. We have here the Boolean approach or strategy, if I'm not mistaken, Boolean approach or strategy. So what does it mean? For example, you have or you are using internet, of course, Google, for example, or Google Scholar, and then you wish to type there, for example, your topic is about smoking and teenagers. So if you type smoking and teenagers, Google Scholar will give you records containing both terms, smoking and teenagers. But if you will type teens or youths, Google Scholar will only provide you records containing either one or both terms, either teens or youth or both. Okay? If you type smoking not Africa, Google Scholar will exclude records containing the second term, Africa. Okay, let's say your topic is about vlogging and promotions of destinations, vlogging and then promotional strategy as a promotional strategy, for example, vlogging as a promotional strategy. Okay, so let's say vlog and let's say vlog and destination vlogs. Okay, so Google Scholar will give you records containing both vlog and destination vlogs. All right, vlog or destination vlogs. Okay. Google Scholar again will give you records containing either vlog or both vlog and destination vlogs. And then let's say vlog, not destination vlogs. So Google Scholar will provide you records or will exclude records containing the second term, which is destination vlogs. Another one best example I could give: computer gaming addiction and academic performance. So we have computer gaming addiction and academic performance. Okay, so Google Scholar will give you records containing both terms, computer gaming addiction or academic performance. Google Scholar will give you records containing either computer gaming addiction or both computer gaming addiction and academic performance. Computer gaming addiction, not academic performance. Okay. And we have more strategies or ways to look for or identifying key terms using online or search engines. So number one is Boolean search or Boolean approach or strategy. Second, we have phrase. How do we do it? Search for an exact phrase by using quotes around the phrase. So open quotation, let's say gaming addiction and academic performance, and then close quotation. That's how we use it. Or you may want to truncation. Find all forms of a word. The asterisk is used as a right-handed truncation character only. So, searching for econom, for example, will find economy, economics, economical, etc. So then, it means to say that when you put asterisk, okay, let's say academic, academ, and then asterisk, for example. Okay, so probably you will find there academic, academe, and other words related to that word. Okay. Wild card. Replace any single character either inside the word or the right end of the word. Comma, question mark, I'm sorry, question mark cannot be used to begin a word. Okay, so either inside, middle, or end. Searching for warm, and then question mark, and we'll find woman and women. So these are searching techniques to limit or expand the results you are looking for. And that is from University Libraries, University of Maryland. Second, after identifying the key terms, we now have to locate literature. And whether you like it or not, there are sites that are not credible to be used in academic writing, like research. Okay? For me, I do not allow my students to use Wikipedia because anyone could edit the content of Wikipedia, right? And I also do not allow my students to use blogs as a reference or to cite in academic writing, like research. So the following are what I recommend to my students. First, of course, we have ERIC, Education Resources Information Center. We have this Global ETD Search. We have the Directory of Open Access Journals, or DOA. We also have the Suite Search, a search engine for students. And we also have Ohio Link, Electronic Thesis and Dissertations. The RepSeek, Project Gutenberg, the famous Google Scholar, or you may also use Google, Springer Link, LibGuides Community, and Infotopia. Base, or what's this? Bilefield, Academic Search Engine, or Base Engine. And then we also have Deep Dive. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to read it correctly. I should have researched, or I should have somehow researched how to pronounce them properly. I'm so sorry. And also the following: ResearchGate, ProQuest, Philippine Journal, the link is provided, Academia, data.gov.ph, Teach 100, Citation Machine, and there are more. But what I gave you are the most useful and recommended search engines. And after locating literature, you now have to critically evaluate and select the literature. And let me present this diagram from Creswell. So the idea behind this diagram is that, as you can see here, we have there on my extreme left, we have low standards to ensure quality, and below we have high standards to ensure quality. To my extreme right, we have ideas appear first, and below we have ideas appear 10 or more than 10 years after initiation. What is the meaning of this? So let me first explain what is in my, or to my extreme left. Low standards to ensure quality, down to high standards to ensure quality. So meaning to say, papers posted on website, professional association newsletters, drafts of papers for conference presentation have low quality, low standards. What does it imply? It means to say that when you use these references in your research, it only reflects the quality of your paper. Again, low standards to ensure quality. Right after that, next we have indexed publications. So we have conference papers, dissertations, theses, professional association papers, college and university publications, indexed publications. So probably these are also, you can find these in your respective universities or schools, or in respective universities and schools. Like, you probably want to visit Philippine Normal University, University of the Philippines, De La Salle University, Ateneo. What else? University of Caloocan City, Quezon City University, Metro Manila College. What other universities do we have? Bestlink College. I do not know if they have. Oh yeah, of course they have, because they have college department, should I say, or undergrad department. Okay, so next we have journal articles, refereed, non-refereed, international, national, regional, state. So journal articles, whether refereed, non-refereed, international, national, regional, and state, they are of high standards already. They are of high standards already to ensure quality. Okay. And then lastly, we have books, research, studies, essays. So meaning to say, books are of high standards of quality. So it is more advisable to, we still have one. We have summaries, encyclopedias, research reviews, handbooks, abstracts. That is the last at the bottom with the highest standards of the highest quality. Encyclopedias, research reviews, handbooks, abstracts. So meaning to say, it's more advisable to look for encyclopedias, research reviews, handbooks, and abstracts in doing your literature review, or in doing your review of related literature and studies. Okay, so we have summaries, books, journal articles. And the lowest are papers posted on website, professional association, newsletters, drafts, or papers for conferences, presentation. Okay. Now let me explain what are those at my extreme right. Ideas appear first. What does it mean? When you go to Google, you type, these are the references you will find right away, immediately, close to your eyes. Papers posted on website, professional association, newsletters, drafts of papers for conferences, for conference presentation. They are available at hand, anytime, anywhere. Because you only have to search them. Down to ideas appear more than 10 years after initiation. Encyclopedias, for example, they are more than 10 years. Okay. So there is a problem here. The problem is most of the professors and universities and colleges would limit the researchers to 5 years recent related literature and studies, unless you are conducting a historical research. Then that's going to be the time that you will be allowed to use more than 10 years, even if that's 1990s or 70s, 80s, 90s, whatsoever. If that is historical research. But if that's going to be in the field of science, medicine, education, for example, I think and I believe that's going to be 5 years recent. So most probably you'll find journal articles, indexed publications, early stage material. Yes. All right. Moving on. So once you're now able to identify the literature and studies with highest standards and quality, you will now also decide on the relevance of the literature review and the reviewed literature and studies. There are questions like, or some researchers would have problems looking for related literature and studies, because they would say that they couldn't find any related literature and studies. Well, if that is the case, you have to consider the relevance of the literature and studies. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you are trying to research on research skills or abilities of senior high school students. Or okay, that's the first example, for example. Okay. Probably you won't be able to find too many related literature and studies if that's going to be your title. Okay. But considering the relevance, you will be able to find literature and studies which you can cite in your research. Let's say if your title is Research Skills or Abilities of Senior High Students, probably topics on writing skills could be included in your research. Okay. Another example would be I forgot. I've got that in my mind a while ago. Let me think again. Let's say K-12 program. K-12 program. Only few researchers conduct study on that. So how do we consider relevance now? We have, or it has dimensions. So we have topic relevance, individual and site relevance, problem and question relevance, accessibility relevance. So for topic relevance, you should be able to answer the question, does the literature focus on the same topics as your proposed study? Then, if yes, you can make use of that. Individual and site relevance. Does the literature examine the same individuals or sites, the place that you want to study? If yes, then you can cite that. Problem and question relevance. Does the literature examine the same research problem that you propose to study? Does it address the same research question you plan to address? If yes, then I believe that's really connected or related or relevant. Accessibility relevance. Is the literature available in your library, or can you download it from a website? Can you obtain it easily from the library or a website? Then if yes, you have the chance to use and cite that in your research. And there will be no more problems in doing your, or in looking for, or in critically evaluating and selecting the literature and studies you need. The next step is to organize the literature. And how are we going to organize that? When we say organize here, in this aspect of my presentation, I will show you how to organize or how to use APA, American Psychological Association style, referencing style for organization. How do you organize? So on your MS Word, go to references. Make sure to set it to APA as shown in the image below. So as you can see there, I have circled the word references and APA. Okay. Go to Manage Sources, click New, then fill out the information needed in the Create Source windows. Or if you're using MacBook, click Insert Citation as shown in the image below. As you can see there, fill out the information and then press OK. Or you click first Show all bibliography fields. Okay, and then press OK. And I just want to remind you the type of source. This is book. So in every type of source that you have, you will be asked for different information or data that you need to fill out. So for example, that's journal. So the information that you will have to supply will be different from a book. Okay. And finally, that is supposed to be 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry. And finally, once you're done supplying the information asked, you can generate your reference list or bibliography automatically. Just click bibliography and choose what heading you want. You have it there. Type of source, okay? Check show all bibliography fields. And then OK. That's how you organize the literature using Microsoft Word. Now, if you do not know how to use Microsoft Word, then probably you really have to have a sheet or a template wherein you will encode the references you have used. Actually, when I did my master's thesis and dissertation, I did have a template for my references because I didn't know yet how to use Microsoft Word to do my reference list. It's just that I discovered it because I need to teach it to you. Okay, you're lucky. And once you click OK, your Microsoft Word will automatically generate this references or reference list. Okay, so that's the format. Now, if you want to know more about if you want to know more about APA citation style or referencing style, You just have to go to Google, type there's APA 7th edition, and then you will find a lot of discussions on that topic. But as you can see here on my screen, you may follow actually the style here or the format here. If you cannot follow or if you cannot do it using your Microsoft Word. And then after organizing, you are now ready to write your literature review. And let me give you an example from STAR's publication, if I'm not mistaken, written by UC Cheng and Wei Wei from University of Central Florida, with a research titled Seeing Destinations Through Blogs: Implications for Leveraging Customer Engagement Behavior to Increase Travel Intention. What a very nice and well written research title. Well thought of or well thought out research title. Okay, so this is an example of how to write your literature review. And I just want to remind you that this is in thematic approach. So I'll give you an example. Let me read it for you. Due to their enormous, well, the theme, we have here travel blogs in tourism. That's the theme. Travel blogs in tourism. And the first sentence, due to their enormous marketing potential, travel blogs have received growing attention from hospitality and tourism scholars. That first sentence is what we call the topic sentence. Okay? That is the topic sentence, meaning to say the remaining or the rest of the sentences should be connected to the topic sentence or to that first sentence. All right? And then after that, recently, researchers started to examine the influence of travel blogs on people's decision making. Is it connected to the topic sentence? Yes, because it talks about travel blogs. And as you can see here, we have the word recently. Recently is an example of a transitional device to maintain the smooth flow of the thought in writing a paragraph. So I recommend you, my students, to do the same thing. I want you to use transitional devices or transitional phrases or words to maintain the smooth flow of thoughts or ideas in a paragraph. Okay? This is called transitional devices or transitional device or word or phrase because you are trying to transition from the first sentence to another sentence. All right? And of course, there is a proper way to use transitional devices. Okay? For example, we have here, for example, Lauda and Philip 2019 conducted a qualitative study to explore how travel blogs affected audiences and found that travel blogs provide helpful information which positively influences audiences' travel intention. Okay? And so on and so forth. Okay. I have here another example of transitional word or phrase or device. The word although. Although connotes negative meaning. Yeah. Like however, on the other hand. So as I told you a while ago, it has to be used properly. All right? And then I also would like to discuss here in this paragraph the in-text citation and parenthetical citation. For example, we have here Lauda and Philip 2019. That is an example of in-text citation. As you can see, Lauda and Philip 2019 conducted. So after Lauda and Philip 2019 conducted, that's the verb. So it will look like a sentence. It will be just a plain sentence. Okay? Lauda and Philip 2019 conducted a qualitative study. That is in-text citation. Another example would be, for instance, I will start my sentence using the word according to. Okay. So let's say Lauda and Philip 2019. I will say according to Lauda and Philip 2019. How will I write it? I need to put a comma after 2019. Okay, so according to Lauda and Philip 2019, comma. The next clause should be a complete sentence. So it should start with a subject followed by a verb. Okay? What about parenthetical citation? Here, Griffith and Papacharisi, 2010. So this is an example of parenthetical citation. As you can see here, I have here two authors. If I have here two authors, I need to use ampersand. Okay? So this is the symbol for ampersand. The symbol for and, that is what we called ampersand. And you have to use that if you have two authors who wrote the same article at the same year. Alright? So Griffith and Papacharisi 2010. Don't forget to put comma before the year of publication. Again, let me emphasize, don't forget to put comma before the year of publication. That's parenthetical citation. What if Sir or Dr. Manolastis, we have two or more parenthetical citations or authors in one parenthetical citation? That is even possible, because especially if you are synthesizing a research article or research articles, you only have to put here, for example, in the word or in the year of publication 2010, a semicolon, and then start with the last name of the author, comma, year of publication. Alright? That's how you write parenthetical and in-text citations. Let's now proceed to theoretical framework. How do we write theoretical framework? This is another challenging part in a research paper. Let's not forget that theoretical framework provides a framework of reference for which to analyze a topic. It is not always necessary, but helps focus on the specific aspect of the topic, especially if you are conducting a qualitative research. Creswell will tell you that you are not required to have a theoretical framework. Why? Because you are actually putting into a box. If you have a conceptual, a theoretical framework, you are actually putting into a box the concept or your research study. That is why Creswell does not, or Creswell explains that it is not necessary in a qualitative research. In writing a theoretical framework, you need to have the following: name of the author, title of the theory, theoretical statement or principles, explanation of theoretical statement, relationship of the theory to the present study, diagrammatic representation of the theory. And later on, I will give you an example. Oh, here is the example. So how do you begin? Begin with the name of the theory and the proponent or proponents. We have, this study is anchored on uses and gratification or UNG theory by Blumler and Katz, introduced in 1974 in the article The Uses of Mass Communications, Current Perspectives on Gratifications Research. So I have already introduced the name or the title of the theory, and then the proponents or the author of the theories, okay? And I will now tell the principle or statement of the theory. According to the UNG theory, people's differing gratification needs may result in varying patterns of media consumption. It also explains the effects of media on people, how people use media for their own need and continue when their needs are fulfilled or satisfied. Okay. Since the 1980s, UNG theory has been widely applied to comprehend people's UNG behind the use of various forms of media and related behaviors. Furthermore, scholars have widely used this theory to investigate people's motivations for using various forms of new media. Okay. Ray et al. 2019, for example, investigated why people use food delivery apps, the development of Facebook stickiness or addiction, and liking behavior or emoticons on social media. Ray et al. 2019, for example, investigated why people use food delivery apps, the development of Facebook stickiness or addiction. Lin et al. 2016, and liking behavior. Oh, I'm sorry. I have repeated it. All right. So that's it. So here I have explained the statement of the theory, and I have even given here researchers who have used this theory in their research to show that even though this has been introduced since 1974, even the most recent study still uses it. Okay? And lastly, I need to discuss the connection of the reasons why I used this theory in my present study. U 2021 applied this theory in a more recent study titled Blog, Resonance Experience Impact on Audience Continuance Intention to Watch Travel Blogs and Travel Intention. Similarly, the current study applied UNG theory in the context of blogging as a tourist destination promotion strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic because it has been widely used and tested for understanding why travelers or tourists watch travel blogs. And this theory has been utilized in numerous studies in a broad context, such as new forms of communication platforms and social media, as used or cited U 2021. So I have already explained here the reason why, or the reasons why I used this theory in my research, or the researcher already explained here why he or they used this theory in their research. Conceptual framework is an intellectual synthesis of the various readings of the researcher, a guide of the researcher to his research, and you should explain the meaning of the diagram. Because in conceptual framework can be presented in diagrammatic form or in a diagram, okay? It could also be presented in textual form or style. Okay, so this is an example of a conceptual framework. So from the study or research of Theodora 2021. So as you can see here, there are arrows and there are, we have there, at the center, you will see Enhanced GAD program, and around it or surrounding it, you will see other words, all right, which are connected to the words at the middle. And here we have the explanation of this conceptual framework. All right? Paradigm of the study is also known as, or conceptual framework is also known as paradigm of the study. Most of the researchers would actually use paradigm of the study instead of a conceptual framework. Okay, to better illustrate their research undertaking. Okay, so a paradigm of the study composed of the paradigm and the explanation of the paradigm or simulacrum, others would call it simulacrum, frame of reference that shows the interrelationships of variables in a correlational study and experimental studies. So in a paradigm, you have to include there the research variables of your study. And this is usually done for a quantitative research. So let us first discuss the types of variables. Independent variables, the values or properties that are presumed to be the cause or influence, therefore affect the changes on another variable or phenomenon. Meaning these are the reasons why another variables are being or are changing. Okay? Dependent variables are the focus of the study. The qualities, properties, or values that are caused, influenced, or predicted by the independent variable. For example, you have a research title, Gaming Addiction and Academic Performance. Gaming addiction there would be your independent variable, and academic performance would be your dependent variable. If that is an experimental research, but if that will be a correlational research, we call computer gaming addiction as predictor variable and academic performance as criterion variable. Okay? Intervening variables may not be controlled or manipulated but may have a direct effect on the outcomes of the study. So, with your research variables, gaming addiction and academic performance, there are other variables which may not be part of your research study but would affect the findings or would affect your research. And those are called intervening variables. Example here, dependent variable, academic performance, independent variable, teaching strategies, because teaching strategies or the academic performance, it is said that the academic performance of the students would depend on the teaching strategies of the teacher. And intervening variables could be personal related variables of age, gender, occupation of parents, etc., which you may want to include in your study. Now, if you will include them in your study, they will no longer be intervening variables. There will be another intervening variables which you do not know, probably. Like for instance, the temperature of the classroom. That could be an intervening variable. Okay? So, paradigm of the study. This is an example. There are several examples of paradigm of the study, but I will only focus on three. On the left side, we have there the independent variable, dependent variable, intervening variable. That is called IVDB model. And that is for experimental based research. So for I, we have teaching strategies. For IB, we have teaching strategies. For DB, we have academic performance. And intervening variable, we have age, gender, occupation, appearance. And if you will see, the arrows are going to academic performance, meaning to say that teaching strategies and these intervening variables would affect the academic performance of the students. All right? On the other side, we have PC model, predictor variable, and criterion variable. Teaching competence of senior high teachers, predictor variable, and level of performance of ABM students. criterion variable, and they are used for association and difference research or researches. All right. And lastly, for descriptive research or research with outputs, you may wish to use the input process output model. So in the input, we actually put there the statement of the problem in declarative form. Declarative form, because in the statement of the problem, these are in interrogative form. Now, in the input, they will now be in declarative form. And for process that is fixed, gathering data using the questionnaire and observation, if you have used observation, documentary analysis, for example, if you have used, but if not, you only use questionnaire, you only have to say gathering data using the questionnaire, and then analysis of data. And output, plan of action for an enhanced work immersion program. Meaning to say, the researchers would make an enhanced work immersion program. So that is IPO. What if you will not make an output? So that's gonna be what you will put there in the output would be the title of your research in past form. In past form of the verb you used in your overall objective, like to determine, to measure, so that will become determined. Measured, all about determined effect of gaming addiction on the academic performance. Measured relationship. Okay? Research gap. Okay. So how do we write research gap? This is how we write research gap. So let me read it for you. Current global economic crisis seems to be especially hard for large companies. Therefore, SMEs are facing strong expectations for their role to be key players when economies will be recovering from the present global recession. Previous research has also widely investigated the firm's characteristics, creating profitability. However, the results obtained are inconclusive or even contradictory. Consequently, many researchers have concluded that more research is needed in that area. So as you can see here in this example of research gap, it was mentioned here that there are inconclusive and contradictory findings. Okay, therefore, if there are contradictory and inconclusive findings, it needs further investigation. And that's gonna be an example of an implied research gap. Just like consequently, many researchers have concluded that more research is needed in that area. Okay, another example. In recent years, there has been an increased focus on the relationship between firms' strategic orientation and firm performance. Prior studies have generally found a positive relationship between entrepreneurial orientation and firm performance. However, the word however, please take note, there are also studies where such a relationship has not been found. One reason might be that the measure that has been used to assess the firm performance has typically been a combination of both profitability and growth measures. Therefore, there was again inconclusive and contradictory findings that calls for further investigation. And that's how we write research gap. As you can see, there are words that would tell you that the research gap is there, like the word consequently and however. in these examples, all right? So if you will be writing your research gap, you probably want to revisit this slide or video and pattern your research gap, or pattern how you will write your research gap in this slide or presentation or video or paragraph. Okay, that's gonna be the ideal way to do it. So we have now the topic, research problem, purpose statement, and research question. They are different from each other. Please take note of that. Okay, topic, broad subject matter addressed by the study. Research problem, a general educational issue, concern, or controversy addressed in research that narrows the topic. Purpose statement, the major intent or objective of the study used to address the problem. And research question narrows the purpose into specific questions that the researcher would like answered or addressed in the study. So as we go on, we will be discussing them. Okay, statement of the problem. Answers the what, who, where, and when. Others would include the how. So, going back here, we have here purpose statement. So here, for example, this study aimed to assess the teachers' level of acceptance of LGBTQ students in selected public secondary schools in the division of Valenzuela City during the academic year 2019-2020. The study aimed to assess the interpersonal and administrative skills of the school principals and their effect on teachers' performance in selected public secondary schools in the division of Caloocan City during the school year 2019-2020. This problem statement or purpose statement could be a basis for you to write your purpose or problem statement too. Like you may begin with this study or this research aimed to your objective, the verb that you have to use or the verb that you will use, which should be smart, and then followed by the central phenomenon or your research title, the participants or respondents, the place, and the year when you will be conducting the research. Just follow this format. And this is another way to do so for qualitative research. This is the suggested format by Creswell and Clark 2014 for qualitative research in writing the statement of the problem or the purpose statement. So the purpose of this phenomenological study is to describe the lived experience of the LGBTQ students in a public school. At this stage in the research, the lived experience will be generally defined as the general definition. So that's the format. So the purpose of this phenomenological study, that is the research design, is to blank the verb, which is the objective, the central phenomenon, the lived experience, where in a public school. If you want to include the when, that is more preferred. For qualitative research, actually, the central phenomenon should be described. That's why Creswell and Clark 2014 included here the format or the format of the pattern in writing that part to define the central phenomenon. So you only have to follow this format. I hope you can catch up. In writing the specific questions or sub-questions, there are things that we need to remember. First, it should be in question form because that is a question. Define the population of and the samples of the study, the respondents for quantitative and participants for qualitative. Identify the variables being studied. It should be possible to collect data. It may yield to higher statistical treatment for quantitative research. must not represent moral or ethical question. So we should avoid asking questions which would compromise the ethical considerations in doing research. It must be original or novel. It must be relevant to society's needs and to one's field of specialization or interest. So if you belong to ABM, your research should talk about ABM or should be connected or related to ABM strand. If you are from STEM, so it's going to be connected to STEM strand. UMS should be connected to STEM or to UMS strand. Okay, that's why to my students, if you will notice, I give you a link wherein you will find series or several topics for your strands. Okay, has a noteworthy contribution to the country's national development and progress. Remember, the reason why we are conducting research because we want to contribute to the existing body of knowledge. Shows relationship between two or more variables for quantitative research, imply possibilities of empirical setting, meaning it could be tested. Okay. So another example format or way to compose a research question based on Creswell and Clark 2004. So you have there what is the meaning of or what does it mean to, and then central phenomenon, like what is the meaning of intrapersonal competencies or competencies. How would participant describe blank? So how would school managers describe intrapersonal competencies? So as simple as that. So we are lucky because Creswell and Clark provided us a pattern or patterns that we would just follow to come up with our own central questions. Another here, what aspect does participant engage in as a blank? So what level of self-concept does the school managers engage in as a characteristic of interpersonal competencies? What nature of practice do the Aitas and locals of Zambales engage in as a part of their customs and traditions? So that is ethnographic research study. What kind of preparation does the top 10 high school students engage in as an indicator of their general study habits? So looking at this slide or presentation, you will see the difference between quantitative research questions and qualitative research questions. Let's see number one, or the first example. How does witnessing domestic violence impact a child's romantic relationships in adulthood? That is for quantitative research question. For qualitative research question, we have how do people who witness domestic violence understand how it affects their current relationships? So look at the verb. We have used the verb impact for quantitative and we have used the verb understand for qualitative research questions. Okay. And another example, what is the relationship between sexual orientation or gender identity and homelessness for late adolescents in foster care? On the other hand, for qualitative, we have what is the experience of identifying as LGBTQ in the foster care system. So here, for quantitative, we have asked for relationship. For qualitative, we have asked for the description of their experience. So you will see the difference, or you will be able to see how a quantitative research questions and qualitative research questions should be formulated. So I have here sample specific questions or sub-questions. I have provided you the research title and the research questions. So I will no longer read it. Same here. So lived experiences of students. So that is phenomenological research study, qualitative research. Women's friendship dissolution, another qualitative research. Interpersonal and administrative skills, that is a quantitative research. Influence of social media. Okay, so look at the sample research questions. That is quantitative. Hypothesis. We will only have hypothesis if you are conducting a quantitative research. For qualitative research, you will have assumption. How do we make, or how do we write hypothesis? If you have in your statement of the problem a question, is there a significant relationship? You only have to transform that or convert that into declarative statement. Is there a significant relationship? Okay, that will become there is no. No, that will become negative. There is no significant relationship between blah 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 blah. Okay, for descriptive research, assumptions. For example, you have in your SOP, what are the descriptions of the experiences of the LGBTQ students on a school campus. So your assumptions would be that there are varied descriptions of the experiences of the LGBTQ students on a school campus. So that's how you compose your assumption. Hypothesis, when you compose your hypothesis, that should be in null hypothesis or HO. Null hypothesis, HO. Why null hypothesis? Because it is easier to prove null hypothesis than alternative hypothesis. When we say alternative hypothesis, that is a positive hypothesis. So it's easier to prove null hypothesis than alternative hypothesis. But in other countries, they use alternative hypothesis. Even in some other universities here in the Philippines, they use alternative hypothesis. But the problem is, when you use alternative hypothesis, you really have to prove that the null hypothesis, that the alternative hypothesis is accepted. That's the challenge, which I think somehow impossible, because not most of the time that's going to be accepted. Significance of the study. This answers the question why. Why is it significant? So research has only one main objective, and that is the enhancement of the quality of life. So that is the significance of the study. All right? So in the significance of the study, you should be able to explain what will the people who will benefit from your study get from your study. So the question is, what will I benefit from your study? Or what will I get from your study? All right? So your write-up for this section should be able to prove that your research will help in the improvement of the quality of life of all beneficiaries, directly or indirectly. To be able to do this, your research must satisfy at least two of the following questions and to be articulated in the significance of the study section. What would be the potential contribution or insight of my research? Why is it important? Will it solve a particular problem? Who or what entities will benefit? So you should be able to answer these questions. The last question should be arranged from the most to least benefited. So sample introductory statement, the results of this study are considered beneficial to. The results of this study will be beneficial to the following. This study will be greatly important to the following. So these are sample introductory statement which you may use in your research. Okay? You don't really have to think how you will start the introductory statement of your significance of the study. Okay. Below is a sample write-up of the significance of the study from Dumlao 2018. The learners, period. Please take note of the format. The learners, period. The learners, bold. Results of the study may be used as a basis for the improvement or enhancement of the work immersion program, which eventually will lead to better preparedness among the senior high school learners. The teachers handling the major subjects, read it for you. Okay, so the benefactors or the people who will benefit from your research will depend on your research title. Okay. The scope and the limitations of the study. The scope identifies what topic the researcher intends to cover. The scope names the information or subject matter that the individual plans to evaluate. Usually what I do here and what I recommend my students to do here and what I will recommend you to do is just to copy the purpose statement that you have in the statement of the problem and paste that in the first paragraph of your scope and the limitations of the study. Because the second paragraph will talk about the delimitations or the parameters that the researcher makes to narrow his or her scope of research. These are a conscious choice to control for certain factors in the study. So you are aware, conscious choice, you are aware. Since the study cannot address all relevant elements, the limitations narrow down the scope and purpose to focus on certain aspects. Remember, you cannot study everything you want to study in just one research. That's the reason why we need to narrow down our research topic and research title. How will you do that? The scope and the limitations of the study to ensure that your research is within your capability to manage within your time, within the bounds of your financial resources, and within the objectives that are set in the statement of the problem. In this section, you should discuss the parameters of the study. These are the setting of the study, the main focus, time frame, and the variables. So you should be able to address these things: the setting of the study, the main focus, time frame, and the variables. A maximum of 2 short paragraphs is allotted for the scope and the limitation. It shouldn't be that long. Okay, it should be a concise paragraph in a 2 short paragraph. I have here suggested opening statements. Like, this study will focus on, will focus on, if that is a proposal research or research proposal. But if that is already conducted, you have to make it in past form. This study focused on, okay? The coverage of this study was, the study covered or covers, the study focused or focuses on, it includes or included blank. But what I usually recommend, again, my students to do here is to just copy the purpose statement in the statement of the problem and paste. So that will serve as the scope of the study for the first paragraph. Okay. So these are suggested opening statements. For the delimitation, for the second paragraph, delimitation boundaries, you have to discuss the boundaries. Again, these are conscious choice of the researchers. And usually, you would discuss here the methodology part, like the sampling technique, the respondents. Let's say it's pandemic. and you are conducting your research, what's gonna be now the boundary? Probably the number of your respondents. You would only have limited number of respondents because it's pandemic. Okay. You may also want to consider the location of your study. So I have your example from Mendona's 2017. The study focused on the knowledge and practices on the outcomes-based teaching learning design of the faculty members of the Subic Bay Colleges Incorporated. The respondents were the 41 faculty members of the Subic Bay Colleges, whether working on a full-time or part-time basis, who have been in the college for at least 6 months. That's going to be now the delimitation of your study. And these are another examples. Read it for you. You may pause this video if you want to finish reading it, okay? Definition of terms, the last part of the introduction, chapter 1. Important terms should be defined in order to avoid confusion. The definition should be as brief, clear, and unequivocal as possible. When we say unequivocal, meaning it shouldn't have vague definition or dual meaning. Two possible methods to define terms could be conceptually and operationally. For conceptual definition, you are defining terms from a dictionary or authority. When it is from a dictionary or authority, you have to cite the reference. Example, salt is a white crystalline substance which gives seawater its characteristic taste and is used for seasoning or preserving food. That is a conceptual definition. Operational definition would be how you use the term or the word in your research. Example, salt is the result of combination of sodium and chlorine. Salt is a water-soluble substance that conducts electricity. Salt is a substance having cubical crystals. Probably in your research, you have tried to combine sodium and chlorine. Or probably in your research, you have tried to use water-soluble substance that conducts electricity. Or probably you have used salt as a substance having cubical crystals. And that is operational definition. Therefore, define terms to avoid giving double meaning, and therefore define terms according to how it was used in the study. Conceptual definitions may be used, but do not forget to acknowledge the author. Avoid the use of circular definitions. It has to be concise, direct to the point, or straightforward. Start from the title. In looking for words or terms that you will define, you have to start from the title until the end of the manuscript to look for terms that should be defined. These should be the most relevant terminologies or words in your research. Acronym could be possible. Definitions should form a complete sentence, not phrases. There should be the subject, the verb, and the definition. Example, salt, the subject, is the verb, and then definition, the result of combination of sodium and chlorine, period. Please do not use what do you call this? Do not use hyphen or dash here in defining your terms or words. Just make it a sentence, not a phrase. Now, my dear students, are you ready for your activity? Or should I say activities? Are you ready? All right. Without further ado, I want you to accomplish the engagement monitoring form, meaning there are questions that you need to answer. And also, I want you to work on formulating your research topic and research title. Let me remind you that in order for you to come up with a very good research topic and research title, you must first read a lot of literature and studies. Remember that you will be looking for the research gap or knowledge gap. From there, you will come up with your research title or research topic. Again, read first. Read, and read before you formulate or come up with your topic and formulate your research title. Now, if you have read and you are now ready to compose or formulate your research title, again, as a group, you should come up with 3 research titles. 3 research titles for quantitative and qualitative research methods. And after that, I will ask you to choose your most preferred research title. But you should be ready to defend those research titles. Because even if you want to conduct a particular research title, but I find it difficult for you to finish or complete your research in a given span of time, I wouldn't approve it. I will only approve research titles which are within your ability, within the time frame, knowledge and skills. All right? I hope that you have listened carefully to this video presentation and you have listened from the very beginning up to the end. All right? Here are my references which you want to consider probably to further strengthen your knowledge about research, particularly in inquiry, investigation, and immersion. All right. Again, this is Dr. Joey B. Manalastas Jr., your teacher in inquiries, investigation, and immersion, or 3 I's. I hope that you have fully understood how to do or how to write your chapter 1. Because after formulating your research title, you will now be doing your chapter 1. All right? If you have listened carefully, as in carefully, I'm pretty sure that you will be able to do your research quickly if you have listened carefully. Once again, I would like to say God bless, stay safe, and still wear your face mask, and always bring your vaccination card wherever you go, because pandemic is not yet over. Bye-bye everyone. See you around.